What is up, people? So, I found a video yesterday that I thought I should comment upon. Yep, it's this one right here. So, let's see what Sai Deepak is saying.
So when someone says science is science, there are two, let's say, problems with it. One, it completely ignores the anthropological, evolutionary and cultural aspects of science. Complete. And the second thing that it does is that it treats one particular template as universal, and therefore it submerges everything else under the carpet. Finished. That's the end of the matter. So that means you will never look at Ayurveda on its own terms. Ayurveda will have to prove itself on the anvils of allopathic empirical evidence. So therefore, clinical trial studies, so on and so forth, the way you look at how a molecule is developed in traditional, let's say, in Western pharmaceutical science, is the model that you choose to superimpose on Ayurveda without asking whether this is right. Is this fair? Because you have told yourself, if it's a quality standard, this is the benchmark. If it's an empirical standard, this is the benchmark. If there is rigor, this is the benchmark. There ends the discussion after.
Let's talk about that. So, he's trying to say that if you have something like Ayurveda, you have to look at Ayurveda or judge Ayurveda based on its own ways of testing itself. You should not test it by the ways of empirical science. It's not that empirical science has a way of doing things and something else has another way. There's only one measure to judge an empirical claim. It's evidence. If someone comes along and says that, hey, this medicine can treat your patient, can get rid of their sickness, which is what Ayurveda says, that's an empirical claim. And to show that your empirical claim has any base, you have to come up with evidence. Now, all these things about how modern medicine does it through clinical trials, through all randomized controlled whatever, over years of figuring out what actually shows you genuine evidence, we figured out the best way to eliminate all cognitive biases, all kinds of fallacious reasonings, and figure out how to judge a medicine. That's what we've come up with. It's not something that allopathic medicine does. All medicines have to go through this. Whether it's, by the way, allopathy is the wrong word, you should say modern medicine. There's no such thing as allopathy today. Yeah, all medicines have to go through such a trial to base their empirical claim of treating a patient upon. There's no such thing as special kinds of ways of judging Ayurveda which are different from how you judge modern medicine. Now let's watch that reel again and I'll comment on this.
Say problems with it. One, it completely ignores the anthropological, evolutionary and cultural aspects of science.
Please tell me, how was the anthropological, cultural and evolutionary aspect relevant when an empirical claim like I can treat your patient, this medicine can treat your patient, when that claim is being made, how is any of this relevant? Is this not a red herring fallacy?
Complete. And the second thing that it does is that it treats one particular template as universal, and therefore it submerges everything else under the carpet. Finished.
It's not that every single way of judging is on equal footing. When you say one particular way that of judging something, that is the particular way. If you have something better than this, come up with that. There is no different ways of judging. There is only one way of judging everything, and that's all empirical claims should be judged by evidence. Forget the anthropological, forget all the other things. All medicine should be judged by its efficacy. It's by the evidence supporting how efficacious that medicine is, how safe that medicine is, none of which is there for Ayurveda.
Finished. That's the end of the matter. So that means you will never look at Ayurveda on its own terms. Ayurveda will have to prove itself on the anvils of allopathic empirical evidence.
It's not allopathic empirical evidence, it's empirical evidence.
So therefore, clinical trial studies, so on and so forth, the way you look at how a molecule is developed in traditional, let's say, in Western pharmaceutical science, is the model that you choose to superimpose on Ayurveda without asking whether this is right. Is this fair? Because you have told yourself, if it's a quality standard, this is the benchmark. If it's an empirical standard.
He seems very knowledgeable when he talks about all these things, but he's clearly not. He just articulates a point really well. That point may be rationalization like this one of something faulty like Ayurveda or scriptures or whatever. I think it's very important you don't go by conviction, and this is a human trait. We listen to a person's conviction when they make a point rather than their evidence that they're presenting. We look at a person's conviction, and he is the best example for this. Don't look at a person's conviction, look at what evidence he's bringing to back up the point he's making. Now, there was one more point I want to talk about in this video. That's not really a reaction to a video, it's actually a rant on something. So, one point that I didn't include in my Fallacies video on the main channel, and I didn't include it for a very good reason, because this point would kind of undermine my whole video when it's taken out of context. And I know there are people watching, there are trolls who will watch, who will take the point out of context. The point is that fallacies by themselves do not show that a person is wrong. If what they're saying, even though their reasoning is fallacious, if what they're saying is consistent with evidence that we know, then you cannot say they are wrong. They do commit the fallacy. They do make the fallacy in their reasoning. But if their final conclusion is consistent with evidence, then you cannot say they're wrong. The reason I didn't say this in the main video is because I know people watching, some trolls watching, will take the point in isolation, saying that, oh, a fallacy doesn't mean a person is wrong. Yeah, that's not what I'm saying. All of what I'm saying I've already said. So yeah, I thought I should make a video because I don't want people thinking that fallacy is the end all be all of determining if a person is right or wrong. Now, when I spot fallacies, I'm spotting fallacies in what people say when they don't even have evidence. So if they don't have evidence and they have fallacious reasoning, then chances are very likely that they're wrong. And that's what I do in my videos. So I'll give you an example for this. Now, you go to a doctor. You're sick, you go to a doctor. Doctor tells you have this medicine. You have that medicine. Now, your conclusion is to have the medicine, and that's based on the doctor's word. Do you see a fallacy there? That's an appeal to authority fallacy. But you need not be wrong. That medicine may be the best thing we have for that condition. You know why? The doctor might give you that medicine based on evidence. Although your reasoning is fallacious, your conclusion is correct. So you have many situations like these where a conclusion is right even though the reasoning that leads them to that conclusion is wrong. So the fallacy only shows you an error in reasoning. It's evidence that tells you whether a person is right or wrong. So always look for a combination of no evidence and a fallacious reasoning, because these two together mean that a person is very likely to be wrong. You can't say 100% wrong because there might be some evidence that you don't know at the moment. Nobody knows at the moment. See, the same logic for God, right? You cannot say God doesn't exist because there might be some form of God or some form of consciousness that we have no evidence for that exists. All you can say is currently I have no good reason to believe in God. The same way, I have no good reason to believe the point being made is true. So yeah, that's it. A fallacy doesn't mean a person is wrong. A fallacy and lack of evidence make it very likely that the person is wrong. So when I was writing the script for the main video, I knew this point is something I have to make, but you can see how that would have undermined the whole video. Why the fuck are you talking about fallacies then? I'm sure there would have been some trolls who said that. But yeah, this is my point. I'll see you in the next video.